Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the Dark Phoenix of Konoha. Naruto has a big secret, he isn't the dead last he appears to be. But why would he show that before he is ready to deal with the stones the council loves placing in his way? The Sandaime, having opened his eyes, will do his best to make sure that Konoha will retain the will of fire. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 29, A Much Expected Fight. You could nearly cut the air with a knife. The villagers of Konoha had waited to see this fight for the last month. Nearly none of them had seen one of the competitors in this one since the start of the Chunin exams. Many were torn in their feelings. They had hated the boy for years, and now, suddenly, he was revealed to be the son of the man they revered more than nearly any other ninja in their village's history. The only one holding the same amount of positive feelings in their minds was the Shodai Hokage. Naruto Namikaze, formerly known as Naruto Uzumaki, was the container of the Kyuubi, a secret that they couldn't talk about under pain of death. Nearly nobody knew really that much about him. His team had certainly not been around a lot in the village. While those interested in the finalists had looked up the mission history of the teams, there was little to say what kind of missions they had done. Anything beyond C ranks and their number was qualified under orders of the Sandaime Hokage. So while they knew that Team 7 had taken a surprisingly large number of C and D ranked missions, they didn't know much about the abilities of the team that had been trained by the Godame. The other two members of the team had shown impressive skills and creativity. Of course, many thought that even if Naruto was the son of their beloved Yondaime, he couldn't be that strong. Their dislike for him was simply too big. Others reasoned that the dead last of his class couldn't be that impressive. The only ones really interested in seeing how strong the boy really was were the ones from ninja families. Especially the clan ninjas knew that Naruto had hidden his abilities during his time at the academy and had only stopped doing so after he had graduated completely. Those whose children were part of the training group of the three rookie teams were really looking forward to seeing his true level. Naruto stood calmly opposite Shino. He knew that Shino would have come up with some creative tricks, but it would still not be his most difficult opponent. He had after all researched all the clans of Konoha and knew that for their bugs to pose a real danger to him they needed to make contact with his skin first. And Shino knew that Naruto knew that point. In their previous spars Shino had never managed to win against Naruto, but he had been one of the stronger ones. And Shino was very smart, just a bit less than Shikamaru. So this would be interesting. Shino watched Naruto closely. He didn't show an ounce of nervousness. He didn't expect him to do so. Naruto was the strongest of their group, but it would be foolish to expect him to be overconfident. Naruto never messed around in a fight. He even took all their spars and training serious. He was the most difficult opponent in the finals. Not even that Psycho Gaara could change anything about that. After all, getting hits on a mentally insane person was easier than a smart opponent that was fully in control over his impressive set of skills. And Shino seriously doubted that Gaara would stand a chance against Naruto. The proctor gave them the signal to start. Shino had already sent a good number of his bugs through the ground. He needed to set the location to have a chance. He saw Naruto taking his stance. That was the faster of his two styles. That would be a problem. Shino let a flurry of shuriken fly to not let Naruto get into his rhythm too fast. Naruto, as expected, sped to the right and quickly set to closing the distance between them. Shino just hadn't expected him to be this fast. He must have deactivated at least 2 levels of his resistance seals. And nobody truly knew which level they were normally at, only that Naruto's were years older than theirs and that he had some levels over them. Shino barely got his defense up before the first hit from Naruto connected. Shino tried blocking and dodging. Sometimes he succeeded, but many hits got through as Shino wasn't the best at taijutsu. Still, he let his bugs use the contact to go over to Naruto. After a fast exchange, Naruto jumped back, and to Shino's surprise he grinned. "Nice try getting your bugs on me, Shino, but I have prepared for this," Naruto said, and activated something that looked like a layer of lightning on his body. Shino saw how his bugs got zapped by the lightning. "I would advise you to find a better way in weakening me. I can zap your bugs easily all day without tiring out," Naruto stated. Shino knew that to be true. Naruto had exceptional chakra reserves, so he had to change tactics. He went through some hand seals. "Earth style, earth spikes," Shino exclaimed and kicked the ground with his foot. Naruto had to jump up to avoid getting hit. He dodged the spikes for a while. "Good try, Shino," Naruto complimented when he dodged the last one. "Last time you didn't have this much control over this jutsu." "Thanks, Naruto, but this isn't all I worked on during the last month," Shino said, and gave a mental command which made his bugs break out from the spikes that surrounded Naruto. He had planned to combine two attacks for a while now. To be precise, since Naruto had told him that as an Aburame people that knew a bit about Konoha's clans would expect his insect-based attacks. So he had decided to work on some surprise tactics. Earth Spikes was a C-ranked jutsu and didn't take too much chakra from him, which was always a problem for an Aburame. But instead of combining his bugs with a weapon like Naruto had once suggested, he had trained them to flow with his earth jutsus. They knew his chakra perfectly after all, so it was no difficulty to make themselves part of his jutsu. So now Naruto was suddenly surrounded by a sphere of Shino's bugs. Still, he was on guard. If there was one opponent that could get out of that attack, it was Naruto. And indeed he soon found himself attacked again by the fast blonde. "Impressive, Shino. If I didn't create some clones before my first taijutsu attack on you, your trick would have cost me a lot of chakra," Naruto said after kicking Shino towards the wall of the arena, which Shino just prevented hitting by turning around in the air. "So you mastered your shadow clones without a hand sign now. That's something I'll have to keep in mind from now on," Shino analyzed. Not to mention the same seems to hold true for substitution. "Very good analysis, Shino. I didn't expect anything less from you," Naruto said before going through a few hand signs of his own. "Wind style, tornado prison." Shino suddenly found himself dodging tornadoes coming from all sides. He had to dodge because the one time he tried passing it he got his sleeve shredded. After a few seconds he saw that he was trapped inside of 8 roaring tornadoes. And Naruto wasn't done. "Water style, sea of puddles," Naruto said and spit countless water bullets out of his mouth all around him that turned the ground of the arena into a landscape full of countless puddles. Shino wondered what Naruto could have planned with this maneuver. In the cage box, Kakashi was really impressed with the level the two showed. And not only him. "That's really impressive," the Sandaime commented. "To hold up one high-level jutsu while performing another. Indeed. That's not something you normally find in a genin, not even a chunin. The most many can do is keeping up a basic jutsu like transformation while doing another jutsu. Anything beyond a D-rank jutsu is nearly impossible for most," the Kaze Cage commented. "He's worked a long time to master that," Kakashi said. "But Shino also showed some impressive tactics. I think he's also a good candidate for chunin." "True. He has a good mind and isn't taking unnecessary risks while still doing his best to hit his clearly stronger opponent," the Sandaime stated. "Though I think that the fight will soon be over. Naruto has set the stage for his deciding technique." Shino seemed to have come to the same conclusion as the Sandaime and raised his hand inside the wind prison. "Proctor, I forfeit. I know that with the way the arena looks now, the only thing Naruto has to do is performing one lightning jutsu, which I know he is capable of, to shock me and my bugs into unconsciousness. Shino called out. Winner by forfeit, Naruto Namikaze. Hey, declared. First the audience was silent, then loud applause and cheers erupted. The fight had been great and they had seen two very capable boys. While Naruto had clearly been the stronger one, it had looked as if Shino had him once with his trap. Naruto deactivated his tornado prison and walked over to Shino to shake his hand. Good fight, Shino. He complimented while Shino took his hand. Likewise, Naruto. It seems I'll have to do a lot more work to catch up to you, Shino stated. Naruto nodded. It wasn't necessary to point out how much training Naruto had done over the years. Damn, he was definitely the dominating one. I've never seen him show off that much in a fight, Sakura commented. True, I wonder how we would do against him, Sasuke mentioned. I fear it would be a really hard fight, Sakura said. While I know that we have grown a lot stronger since the academy, he has done the same and he was leagues ahead of us then. Sasuke hated admitting that, but it was true. He knew that he by now had the strength and skill of a solid Chunin, perhaps some of his skills were scratching low Jonin level, but with Naruto he was mostly solid Jonin and in some areas high Jonin level. And don't get him started on Fuinjutsu, Naruto was a demon with them. So only one fight left in this round, Sakura said. Do you think Shikamaru will fight properly? Yes, since that simulated mission against Naruto, he has seen what can happen if he doesn't. I wouldn't have thought that slacker had it in him, Sasuke replied. Down in the arena Shikamaru was now facing Temari for the last fight of this round. He could deduct that she was probably using wind jutsus from the war fan on her back. He had asked his dad about known specializations from Suna and had found out that those that had wind element often used suitable weapons to enhance their abilities. War fans required a powerful affinity and one of the most famous war fan users had been Temari's mother Karura when she had still been an active kunoichi. So Shikamaru had to be on guard. The last fight of the first round of the Chunin exam finals, Shikamaru Nara of Konoha vs Temari Sabaku of Suna. Begin. Hey declared and cleared the arena. Temari didn't waste any time and opened her fan fully and swung it with power, creating a massive gust of wind. Shikamaru quickly took cover behind a tree. Is that all you can do? Hiding? Man, you Konoha ninjas don't seem all that great, Temari taunted. Troublesome, Shikamaru mumbled. He really didn't want a long fight. He wanted to get this over with and preferably without getting hit too much. He had a plan, but it would take some time to implement it. Well, time to start. He made the standard seal used for the shadow possession jutsu and hoped that Temari hadn't done as much research as he had. Sadly it seemed she had, and she was running away from his shadow, trying to get enough distance between her and the shadow. Shikamaru decided to use that and pretended that his shadow couldn't reach farther than 10 meters. She even drew a line onto the ground, measuring the distance. Perfect. So that is the limit of your shadow. As long as I stay out of it I don't have to worry too much, Temari said. Shikamaru kept his poker face. He started throwing a flurry of weapons, which were all reflected by Temari with weaker wind boosts. They now lay around her with perhaps a meter distance for the closest ones. Throwing weapons at a wind user is useless. You don't seem too bright not realizing that, Temari taunted again. But Shikamaru knew that he had as good as one. His kunao were special and he had got them specifically for fighting long-range fighters. His shadow jutsus were mostly middle-ranged right now and he first needed to increase his chakra reserves before he could use them more efficiently. He calculated the distance of the closest kunao and was satisfied. His plan could start. He sent his shadow off again and unnoticed by Temari he had it connect with each of the special kunaos. When his shadow reached the line she had drawn it barely crossed it at first, making up the distance he had stepped forward, and she retreated by that much. Then he struck, letting his shadow race forward quickly and connect with hers. Finally, the shadow possession jutsu is complete. Shikamaru commented. But how? Even with the lesser distance I should have been far enough away. She asked, shocked. A true ninja never reveals his secrets, and while our villages may be allied, it's better to not reveal secret techniques, especially not at the beginning of a competition where I have to face the toughest opponent out of the whole group next. Shikamaru stated. You think you've already won? Temari asked angrily. I don't think so, I know. Shikamaru said and lifted his hands, which made Temari lift hers in the same fashion, still holding her fan in one of them. Now, you see, I can make you mimic my movements thanks to my jutsu. If I have you hit yourself over the head with your war fan, you'll get a bad headache and pass out. So if you want to avoid that, give up. Temari was clearly trying to break out of his jutsu, but it was impossible for her. Ugh, shit. She cursed. Fine, I can think of better things to do than nursing a headache. Proctor, I forfeit. Winner by forfeit, Shikamaru Nara. Hey, declared. The audience clapped. This had been a short fight, but it had been a good one, with the winner outsmarting his opponent. The ninjas in the audience, especially Asuma, were very impressed with the display of Shikamaru. He had quickly and efficiently taken out his opponent, and if he had been tasked to capture his opponent for interrogation, he would have done perfectly. The cages were really pleased with the last fight. While the Kaze cage was disappointed by how quickly Shikamaru had caught Temari, at least she wasn't really injured and could still play her part in the planned invasion. The two Hokages would have wished that Shikamaru had gone through with the finishing move, but he hadn't been informed about the upcoming invasion, so he didn't know that they needed to take their opponents from Suna out. A good fight. The boy has a good head on his shoulders and knows how to use his jutsus. Too bad that Temari was too sure of herself. The Kaze cage therefore commented. Yes, but I don't think she'll make that mistake again in the future. Sometimes a defeat that you survive can teach you much more than a victory. The Sandaime said wisely. Kakashi only nodded. Alright, what do you think? Should we make things a bit more interesting or let them all continue with the fights like they were planned? Kakashi asked, giving the Sandaime the previously agreed signal. Oh, and what kind of change do you have in mind? The Kaze cage asked suspiciously. Well, the Chunin exam finals are all about fighting an opponent you don't have much information about first. But now they have seen what their opponents can do. I'm sure the 6 that got into the semi-finals are already planning how to fight the next one based on this. We could enter a random choice. Like we would do in preliminaries if they were necessary. Kakashi explained. I like the idea. A ninja has to be ready to face unknown obstacles all the time on missions. This would tell us much better which of the remaining finalists are ready to be Chunin, as they would have to find counter strategies on missions they get to lead as well. The Sandaime said. In truth, they wanted to mess around with any previously arranged plans of the invaders. They were sure that Gaara was their trump card as soon as Jinchuriki. So if they had planned something involving him, it would be best if they arranged for him to fight Naruto. Why not? I agree that it would be a good way to test the finalists, and I'm absolutely sure that Gaara can take on any of your genin, no matter if he knows who it is beforehand or not. So, you want to draw each pairing directly before the fight? He asked. Yes, otherwise those in the later fights would have an unfair advantage. The Sandaime said. Kakashi stood to announce the terms of the next round. We have seen some very good fight in the first round of the finals. Now I want to announce the stipulations of the next round, the semi-finals. We will choose the pairings randomly. That means that none of the finalists will know beforehand whom he has to face, which shortens the preparation time immensely. As our 6 semi-finalists have had a fight already, We will wait with the second round until in 30 minutes so our competitors have a chance to get injuries treated or rest from a strenuous fight," Kakashi told the audience. Most were excited to get this mode of choosing the competitors. What nobody knew was that Naruto and Gaara wouldn't be in the pool for the first 2 fights, they would get the last one as the Hokages were sure that Orochimaru wouldn't hold his invasion off for much longer. Chapter 30, Playing with the Setups. The break was used to get more bets placed, buy food and drinks, to discuss the previous fights and visit the bathroom. Excitement could nearly be cut with a knife. The first round had given the spectators a good show of the abilities of the genin that were attempting to gain the rank of Chunin. Most in the audience were ninjas with a few civilians and lots of customers of the village mixed into them. Orochimaru had to suppress a chuckle. The people here were absolutely clueless that soon there wouldn't be a village called Konoha anymore. Or not much of it. It was probably impossible to kill everybody, but once Gaara was unleashed onto the village in full Biju form, the villagers wouldn't know what to do anymore. They didn't have the fourth anymore and neither his son nor his remaining students were capable of taking down a Biju. Even if Kabuto's information on Naruto had been massively lacking in quality. Not to mention that, except for a note that he couldn't send more information because Ibiki was getting paranoid and suspected him or somebody close to him as a spy, he hadn't heard from him since the second round. Well, he had prepared for anything. And Kabuto knew how to prevent that information got into enemy hands. It would be a shame if he lost the talented young medic, but he could replace him. He was a bit annoyed at the change of how the third round would be battled, but in the end it didn't matter. He had wanted to see Sasuke go up against Gaara, but the quality of the candidates in the finals was really high so far. Sarutobi must have done something during the last months to improve the training of the fresh genin, because clearly there was a massive increase in abilities compared to their academy graduation reports and the progress reports that Kabuto had sent on the teams except for Team 7 under Kakashi. That one was completely wrong. He would see when Gaara would fight. He would give the signal for the attack when Gaara was fighting any member of Kakashi's team. It would be nice to see the young Hokage lose one of his precious students. After all, who would be able to go up against a Jinchuriki that could unleash their Biju? Certainly no genin. The audience was awaiting the drawing of the first match of the second final round. There were 6 competitors left now. 3 of them the students of the Godame Hokage. All 3 had shown their superiority in their fights. Talks about the next generation of the Sunin were going round. Then the giant monitor that had been placed next to the VIP lounge where the cages resided was flashing through names faster than anybody could look. The board settled on 2 names after a short while. Sakura Haruno would face Shikamaru Nara. The proctor called the 2 down to the arena and they stood opposite of each other. What a drag. I really hate having to fight girls. Shikamaru complained. I'll make it short for you then, slacker. Sakura countered, cracking her knuckles threateningly. She's as bad as my mother. Shikamaru mumbled. How troublesome. The first fight of the semi-finals of the Chunin exams. Sakura Haruno of Konoha vs Shikamaru Nara of Konoha. The same rules as in round 1 applies. Begin. Hate called out and jumped away. Shikamaru knew that if he wanted to have a chance to win this, he needed to catch Sakura before she could poison him. The fight against Kiba had given him a lot of useful information. Too bad that Sakura knew that as well. She unleashed a flurry of shuriken at him which he had to dodge and it prevented him from using his shadows efficiently. He countered with some kunao of his own to not let her dominate the fight, but he knew that this matchup was against him. Sakura was fast and knew about his shadow techniques. She would make very sure to not come too close to them. He tried an unusual approach. He had worked hard on this part with his father to be able to connect his shadow in another way than being a sitting duck and unable to defend himself properly because he had to hold the hand sign until the shadows were connected. So he attacked and went in close, unsheathing a short sword from his back. He knew that this was unlike his normal fighting style, but the typical Nara style was very much meant to work together with others that took care of the physical and distraction parts to allow him to catch an opponent. He held the sword in his right hand and Sakura blocked each strike with a kunao. After a short exchange they jumped apart and she threw a purple-colored ball at him. He feared poison smoke and held his breath. But the smoke could also work in his favor if he managed to pull this off. He jumped upwards out of the cloud of smoke and therefore avoided the shower of senbon that Sakura fired at his former position, to the left of it and to the right. She had a good idea by covering a wide area while he would be handicapped in his response time with not seeing what she did exactly. But now the jump in the air allowed him to form his hand sign, another improvement he had made in training, and his small shadow on the ground reached out and connected with the whole shadow of the cloud. Sakura must have known that it could happen, which was why she had fired her senbons wide-ranged. Against a normal opponent that would even have worked. Not many would decide to jump into the air for a short while, risking inhaling the poison when they fell again. But with a smart opponent like Sakura it had been assured that she would do something against normal strategies of avoiding being trapped. He felt the connection from the jutsu and took in a deep breath before landing back in the cloud of poisonous smoke. He would bet that Sakura had built up an immunity to this type of poison. Or she had learned to hold her breath for long periods of time. Both could be possible and he needed to calculate for it. He ran out of the cloud feeling that his opponent was following him thanks to the shadow connection. "This match is over," he said, secure in his assessment. "No, it's not," Sakura countered. "You can't escape my jutsu, I can simply force you to submit with my sword as you don't have a weapon on your back. So simply give up, Sakura," Shikamaru said. Then he felt a sharp pain in his neck. "What?" Shikamaru asked, struggling to keep hold of his shadow possession. "You should never discount the possibility of a clone, Shikamaru," Sakura said from behind him, fading into view with a syringe in her hand. Shikamaru felt the drug coursing through his system. "How? You don't have enough chakra for any kind of solid clone?" he asked, dropping to a knee. "You would have needed your full reserves for a simple elemental clone alone. And you couldn't have recovered that after the fight against Kiba yet." "Well, it has its perks being on a team with Naruto. I know that I don't have the chakra reserves that are necessary for this kind of thing, but he once gave Sasuke and me some useful seals on a mission that allow us to store chakra worth 5 A-rank jutsus in them. I used one during the break and am at more than my normal full capacity right now." "Good night, Shikamaru," Sakura said. Shikamaru lost the fight with the drug and fell to the ground, dropping the jutsu against Sakura's clone. Hey landed next to Shikamaru and checked if he was really asleep. "Winner by knockout, Sakura Harino. She commences to the finals," Hayate announced to the cheers of the audience. "Interesting strategy of your student there, Hokage-sama," Orochimaru said in his disguise. "Indeed, and to have it work against Inara by using his preconceptions is really incredible. She will definitely get her promotion," Kakashi said, smiling. "I agree. She not only made a clone using the cover of poisonous mist, she must also have used the underground fish projection jutsu to travel through the earth. All within a few seconds, while also managing to put a genjutsu over herself to hide her presence until it was too late," the Sandaime said. The other two nodded impressed. "Now only 4 are left. I'm somewhat hoping that Gaara gets to fight Sasuke Uchiha. Nothing against the other 2 candidates, but young Sasuke's clan's reputation carries far and people in Suna are curious how he would fare against our strongest genin," Orochimaru said. "Well, Sasuke is definitely one of the most talented genin I have seen in my career as Hokage, but I think Naruto can at least give him a run for his money," the Sandaime said. "We will know soon." Either way, the matchups are going to be known in a few seconds. Kakashi said, seeing that the board was shuffling the names again. Of course he knew that Sasuke would fight Hinata next. It was rigged that way, as neither Naruto's nor Gaara's name was available to be chosen. Then the board stopped showing the two names. Down in the arena, Hayate was calling Hinata and Sasuke down. Hinata and Sasuke observed each other, both having their eyes activated. This was a fight that was a matter of pride for both of them. Uchiha vs Hyuga. Sharingan vs Byakugan. Hayate had given the starting signal already, but both were looking for an opening. Hinata knew how strong Sasuke was, and Sasuke knew that getting hit by Hinata was fatal. Then they both flew through a sequence of hand seals. Fire style, great fireball. Sasuke called out and shot a big ball of fire at Hinata. Water style, water bullet. Hinata countered. The attacks hit in the middle and produced steam, which covered that part of the arena. The spectators only heard some fighting noises, but they couldn't see a thing through the steam. Finally the steam cleared and both fighters looked a bit worse. Sasuke had trouble with his left arm and Hinata had some visible bruises on her right arm. Her sleeve had been torn off somehow and therefore it showed. Sasuke then channeled lightning chakra into a number of shuriken and threw them at Hinata, who slid into a stance nobody had seen before. 8 trigrams, protection of the 64 hands. Hinata called out and started shooting chakra beams from her hands and deflecting and cutting apart the shuriken that Sasuke had thrown at her. Hayashi Hyuga looked very pleased at how this fight was going. While he didn't truly believe that Hinata was good enough to defeat the Uchiha boy, she was not giving up like she had done before, and she was showing off the power of the Hyuga clan. That jutsu was the one she had worked on with the children of the clan, and to see it finished and used in a fight that was as important as this one was good to see. The elders would have to back off from their constant criticism and pressuring him into deciding on the air. He could continue stalling for now. And he knew that the worst problem, Elder Hiroshi, would not live much longer. He was already ill and it was only a question of time until he died. Without him demanding that one of Hayashi's daughters being put into the branch family, he could find a solution that prevented that either Hinata or Hanabi ended like Hisashi had. Hating his sibling and resenting the main family. It was bad enough that Neji hated them so much. If only he could tell him the truth, but Neji probably wouldn't listen before he had got a major wake-up call from somebody. Hinata and Sasuke watched each other again. They needed to find a way to overcome the other's defense. Then Sasuke drew his sword and ran towards Hinata. She used the gentle fist style to deflect the blade away from her and even managed to hit a tenketsu on the side of Sasuke's upper left thigh. Sasuke jumped back on the power of his right leg, but Hinata now pressed forward. Sasuke knew he needed to prevent her from attacking in full force. So he used something nobody had seen so far. He started making hand seals with his right hand while holding his sword with his left, which, while slightly handicapped, worked well enough for this. Lightning style, electro web. Sasuke called out and in front of him a net made of electricity appeared. One-handed seals? That's really impressive. Orochimaru exclaimed. He was drooling on the inside about the potential having that body would offer him. The Sharingan and the knowledge to use one-handed seals. It seems his training over the last month really paid off. He hadn't mastered this trick when the second round ended. Kakashi stated, very pleased. Sasuke had got the idea of using one-handed seals from Naruto, who had told them about how Haku had used them in the ambush on the way to Wave Country. As Sasuke could see the use of having one hand free to wield a weapon freely in a fight, he had worked hard on working out which seal would be needed to use his normal jutsus with one-handed seals. It had taken him months to work everything out, but now he seemed to be secure enough in his skill to use it in a real fight. Your students really show their skill in these finals, Godame-sama. The Sandaime said. Thank you, I'm immensely proud of all of them. Kakashi replied. Hinata didn't have time to dodge the web, so she tried taking away some of its power. She threw a volley of shuriken into it, hoping that the metal would trigger some kind of discharge. Sadly, it didn't really work like that. Instead, the web exploded to her side and she was blown away a few meters. She scrambled back to her feet only to be confronted with Sasuke going into a strong taijutsu assault, which she only managed to partially block. She needed her full concentration to use the gentle fist properly, and with her current state of burns on several places of her body that wasn't the case. She needed to find a way to turn the battle around, but she couldn't think of one. The problem was that the Sharingan could see through genjutsu easily. So using one of them was just wasting chakra. Well, a ninjutsu should buy her some time. Water style, water whip. She called out and created a 2 meters long whip which she used to keep Sasuke at a distance. The jutsu wasn't perfected yet, but it was good enough to help her out of a tight spot for a moment. Sadly, she hadn't counted on Sasuke finding a counter very quickly after his initial jump backwards. He let her hit his left arm with the whip and then channeled lightning chakra into his arm and through her whip. She was too slow to let the jutsu falter to avoid getting shocked and therefore had her nerves fried by the electricity. She tried standing up, but her muscles refused listening to her commands anymore. Then Sasuke stood in front of her, holding his sword to her throat. "I win," he stated simply. She couldn't deny that. She would need to regain control of her body for a few minutes before she could continue fighting, and if this was an enemy, she would have been dead. But she had performed well and much better than ever before. She had landed a few good hits and she hadn't given up. She could be proud of that. Hey landed next to them. Winner by submission, Sasuke Uchiha. Hey announced, and the audience cheered for this great battle. A good fight. Both showed a good amount of skill and that they could keep their head in battle. The Sandaime commented. Yes, but the Hyuga girl made a critical mistake in overlooking that her water whip could be used against her. Orochimaru pointed out. True, but I think she didn't expect that Sasuke had mastered lightning manipulation fully. I guess she expected him to need at least a few hand seals to use the whip against her. In that case she could have succeeded with her tactic. Kakashi spoke up. We will have to consider her for promotion. She showed 2 good fights and only misinformation led to her defeat. The Sandaime nodded, agreeing with that. I guess then it's time for one of the most interesting fights now. The sons of the Yondaime cages of their respective villages. Orochimaru said, hoping that Gaara would take Naruto out. Indeed. I can promise that Naruto will give his all. He wants to prove that he can one day surpass his father. Kakashi said. Gaara will do all he can to take the victory. Orochimaru stated sure of this. Gaara would probably see Naruto as a worthy challenge to satisfy the demon inside of him. He didn't get blood in his first fight against the Akimichi boy. He was in need of some. And once Gaara had the upper hand and killed Namikaze's brat, he would give the signal to start the invasion. Konoha would fall today. Chapter 31, Naruto vs Gaara. The crowd was close to boiling. This was the fight everybody had been waiting for. The fight between Gaara Sabaku and Naruto Namikaze. Both the sons of the respective Yondaime of their village, even if Naruto hadn't been known as such until 1 week ago. They stood opposite each other, Naruto with a calm look on his face, Gaara with a crazy look. Many among the audience were watching very closely, hoping to report to their superiors just how strong the son of the Yondaime Hokage really was. Rumors were flying around why he had been revealed now for the Chunin exams. The only hidden village of the Great Five that hadn't sent spies was Iwa, as they had been stopped long before they could reach Konoha. The Umbu were keeping an eye on the one Kumo spy and the Kiri spy. So far they had simply gathered information and not acted against Konoha. And as there were no detected other ninjas from their villages, pending the upcoming invasion, the Umbu were instructed to not bother them. The results of the Chunin exams were common knowledge after a few weeks anyway, and this way it would work as a demonstration of strength to both Kumo and Kiri. Mother will soon have your blood, Namikaze, Gaara said. It is said that Suna isn't able to properly do a seal. Without the voice in your head that you believe to be your mother's, you could have been a decent bloke, Naruto answered sadly. So you know, that makes it even better. I will kill you and prove my existence. Your blood will be very tasty for mother, Gaara crazed. Naruto just shook his head and went into his stance. In the back of his mind, he thought back to the orders that he had been given prior to the finals by his sensei, the new Hokage. Flashback. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke stood in front of the Sandaime and just crowned Godame Hokage and waited for being given their special orders for the upcoming finals. They all knew that something big was up. And as the team that the Godame Hokage had trained, they would be under close observation by everybody. Not to mention that they would be prime targets. Well, Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura, you have impressed me with your passing of the second round and the reports from your trainers. We now have a good opportunity to promote the finals all around the elemental nations. We have some well-known names in the fights, especially a high number of clan heirs, not to mention that we revealed Naruto's true identity, so many will be attracted to come and watch. This should bring good business to the village. Not only for the fights but also in the months to come when the employers will send their missions out. From all the 12 finalists, 9 are from Konoha. That is a very good result for us. I am especially pleased that none of the Oto ninjas have made it to the finals. From what we could find out, Orochimaru founded that village and now there is no reason for his ninjas to stay here to spy, while we can't refuse to let them stay. Thanks to interrogating captured spies, we have a pretty good idea what Orochimaru plans to do during the finals. An invasion of Konoha has been set up by Oto and Suna. We don't know why Suna agreed to this plot, but their ninjas are to be treated as enemies. Kakashi stressed the importance of the point. During the first round of fights, none of you will have to face Gaara, who has been confirmed as the Jinchuriki of the Ichibai by Jiraiya's spy network. The only one of you that has one of the 3 Suna finalists as his opponent is Sasuke. I expect you to make sure that he isn't a problem during the invasion, Kakashi said. I'll make sure of that, Hokage-sama, Sasuke said, looking proud to have such an important task. We can't predict how the fights against the other 2 will go, but I think that we can be sure that Gaara will defeat Koji. Shikamaru might be able to take out Temari. If not, we'll make sure that in the second round Sakura will fight Temari and Naruto, you'll be the one to fight Gaara no matter what. We'll manipulate the pairings so that our goals are met, Kakashi revealed, and the 3 genin nodded. That will be the hardest fight for you, Naruto, Kakashi said seriously. Not only is Gaara dangerous, I'm sure that he's going to be Suna and Oto's trump card. No ally would send an instable Jinchuriki into a Chunin exam. Therefore you are ordered to eliminate the threat he poses to Konoha with all methods, Naruto. This is an S-rank mission. Do you understand? The Hokage asked. Yes, I do, Naruto stated. He didn't like killing, but he would do it if it was necessary. We can't afford an open assassination attempt against the son of the Kazekage, but in the finals killing your opponent can happen. We are prepared for a worst-case scenario, in other words a total invasion with superior numbers being against us. Sasuke, Sakura, Naruto, we will need all the ninjas we can get to push invading forces back, so I want you to make sure that you don't injure your opponents from Konoha too badly. Show your skills, but remember you are up against our shinobi. We can't risk heavy injuries. When the invasion starts, don't show any mercy to anybody with a Suna or Oto forward protector. Naruto, I want you to be ready to unleash the Flying Thunder God on any attackers after you neutralized Gaara as a threat. Let's show them why thinking that they could defeat Konoha is folly, Kakashi said, and his students confirmed their orders. Flashback end. Hate took over. The last fight in the first round of the Chunin exam finals. Gaara Sabaku of Suna vs Naruto Namikaze of Konoha. Begin, he announced. Jiraiya was hidden in the shadows of the arena roof near the cage lounge. He was there to give additional protection against whatever plans the Kaze cage might have concocted with Orochimaru. While they didn't know where Orochimaru was hidden, they knew that the two Hokages would be among the main targets of an invasion, alone to prevent them from interfering with the attacking troops. For now he would watch the fight of his godson. After the cool start, they had managed to establish a working relationship with each other. Naruto had longed for a family for all his life, and even if he was mad that his godfather had left him behind in a village where the majority of the inhabitants hated him, he wouldn't deny himself a family for the future. And Jiraiya had done all he could to make up for his absence. So he now had a perverted uncle, a wise grandfather, and an annoying little brother. Konohamaru somehow grew on you once he got over his ego. His family might be unusual and not his by blood, but it was his nonetheless. Jiraiya knew that it wasn't easy for Naruto to be ordered to kill Gaara, but the threat he presented to the village was too big to be ignored. Naruto knew that he could have ended like Gaara easily. So having to kill a fellow Jinchuriki was really hard on him. If only he could place a 5 elements seal, then they could take him prisoner. But with the annoying sand armor that option was not available. And they had spied intensively on Gaara to find ways to take out the trump card Orochimaru planned to play in the invasion. Naruto jumped back from Gaara to have enough space to evade the sand the boy would undoubtedly unleash. Well, Gaara would be in for a surprise there. The hidden mist jutsu, which he had learned with the help of Jiraiya and a scroll about the technique from Kakashi-sensei, was out of the question for an opponent that wasn't dependent on sight. The sand could sneak up on him in the mist, so he wouldn't take away his own advantage. It was for the same reason he hadn't used it against Shino. His bugs could come from any direction. But it would come in handy later during the invasion to take out large numbers of opponents quickly. While he jumped and ran around Gaara, he used his sensor abilities to try and find any weaknesses in the boy's sand defense. He could feel the chakra that was in the sand. It was even. He also knew that Gaara was using the ground to his advantage. Well, he would show him what danger a water elemental with a shitload of chakra could pose to him. He flew through a chain of hand seals and finally unleashed his jutsu. Thankfully there were hidden water reserves under the arena. Pulling all the water he needed from the air would have been exhausting. And he would need the water storage seals for later probably, so if he could save them, all the better. Giant waterfall jutsu. Naruto called out and unleashed tons of water upon Gaara and the whole arena. That is impossible, where does he get that much water from? Kurane asked shocked. There are reservoirs under the floor for the finalists to use. To be fair to all possible elemental jutsus, there are resources that if found by the genin can be used, Asuma explained, trying to hide his being impressed with the jutsu Naruto had just pulled off. But that much water? I could understand a low-level water jutsu being used. That jutsu is an A-rank jutsu that is not widely known in Konoha. We should have expected it. He is the best of the new generation after all, Asuma said. And I knew that he had water as one of his elements. I just didn't think he would be able to pull all the water from the reservoirs. That requires incredible chakra control next to the raw reserves he needs. True. Chakra-intensive jutsus would come easier to him than those requiring fine control. And to get all the water through the ground without losing a good amount on the way proves that he has really good control, Kurane admitted. Naruto was very pleased with the results of his jutsu. While Gaara had managed to jump away from the wave that had been unleashed at him, at least half of his sand was now mud. And all the preparation of the ground had been wasted. Mud was heavier than sand and harder to manipulate. Against a water user like Naruto, Gaara was at a disadvantage. Additionally, Gaara would be hard-pressed to keep his remaining sand dry to be able to use it. In the cage lounge, Orochimaru was seething. The brat had become even better during the month of preparation. And he hadn't been able to find Sasuke. Somehow Sarutobi and Kakashi had known what he had planned and taken precautions to keep him away from his goal. He had counted on Gaara to kill Naruto in their fight, but with the level of control the brat demonstrated, he had a real chance to defeat Gaara. Water, while in small amounts, was no danger to Gaara, but those amounts Naruto used were dangerous. He had proven that with the first attack. By his estimation, Gaara's reserves of sand had been cut in half. And without any additional supplies from the ground, Gaara would be limited to the stored sand in his gourd. This wasn't looking good. Normally the best time to start the invasion would have been the final fight between Sasuke and Gaara, but now it could be that his best weapon would be out of commission before the invasion even started. How did Sarutobi get Naruto this strong in just 1 month? Stupid Kabuto for not getting proper information on that team. Naruto used the time Gaara was occupied with dodging his jutsu to create 5 water clones and hid them in the water. His plan didn't only rely on water jutsus, no, he had also a bunch of seals he wanted to use to trap Gaara. He wouldn't leave anything to chance. The safety of Konoha was at stake and he would protect his home. He had created those seals himself as his masterwork. He had looked for a possibility to use the 5 elements seal on Gaara despite his impenetrable defense. He now thought he had found it, or at least he would be able to imitate the effects to some degree. His clones were placing prepared seal tags at 5 strategic points of the arena. Then, once they were in place, he could spring his trap. He just needed to distract Gaara from anything but him, so another water jutsu was it. Water release, water dragon bullet, he announced after going through the chain of necessary seals. He had great control over his dragon and made it chase Gaara around the walls and over the water surface. Obviously the redhead knew that if he was hit with that much water, he wouldn't be able to move properly anymore. Very impressive, Hokage-sama, Orochimaru in his Kaze Kage disguise said. Yes, it is, Kaze Kage-sama, thank you. Naruto is one of our best upcoming shinobi. I am very happy how well he is faring against a strong opponent like Gaara. He is fighting very strategically. I will definitely have him promoted to Chunin after the exams. His planning and use of his opponent's weaknesses is very good, Kakashi stated. I have to agree, but Gaara isn't defeated yet. You will see, Orochimaru answered. No, you will see. There is no way Naruto will let your weapon do any damage to Konoha, the Sandaime thought. Naruto got the signal from his clones that the seals had been put in place. First he created 9 shadow clones, 5 of which immediately took over, pelting Gaara with water attacks. 3 of them were taken out by Gaara's sand, but they all did their purpose of giving Naruto time for his trap. He and the other 4 clones got out of the area his seals would influence and began going through a new chain of hand seals. Fuinjutsu, 5 elements demon imprisonment barrier, they shouted together and slammed their hands onto one of the seals each. A light blue pentagram was stylized between the 5 seals. Gaara felt pain like never before in his life. It was as if part of his being was cut away. The cages were stunned. Naruto had managed to capture Gaara in a sealing array that would cut his connection with his Biju. Kakashi looked at Naruto and saw that the boy was waiting, a kunai ready to attack once the connection was severed enough to manage the kill he was ordered to do. But this could work even better. He discreetly gave Naruto a signal to not go for the kill but for a permanent 5 elements seal on the boy. No need to waste the opportunity to capture another Jinchuriki. And in eventual negotiations with Suna it would be beneficial to have such a valuable offer. Naruto nodded slightly and threw his kunai as if he wanted to see if his opponent's defense was down. It looked like it had been his plan from the beginning. Gaara was hit by the kunai in his left arm and began bleeding. It looked as if he was going crazy over seeing his own blood. Naruto made a shadow clone to take his place. Baki didn't believe his eyes. His student was obviously in a crazy rush, but his demon didn't take over. He was in pain, but somehow the barrier that blonde kid had put up suppressed the Shukaku from coming out. Now the blonde was running down the wall towards Gaara, his hand glowing at the fingertips. That couldn't end well. He should act, but the signal didn't come yet. Fuinjutsu, 5 elements seal, Naruto shouted and slammed his right hand into Gaara's stomach. Gaara looked shocked and collapsed into the water beneath him. The voice, "I can't hear mother's voice," he whispered before he fell unconscious. Naruto prevented him from drowning and held him up by his collar. He checked the seal and was happy to see it worked perfectly. He also had a look at the seal that imprisoned the Ichibai. He was enraged. That seal was too weak to keep the demon from influencing Gaara. The seal master that put that seal onto Gaara should be forced to live through the craziness he put Gaara through with his sloppy work. "Winner, Naruto Namikaze," Hayate announced. After a moment of silence, people began applauding Naruto. The fight had been fast-paced and they had seen impressive jutsus. Naruto still had some problems taking in that they were really cheering and clapping for him. Then he began to smile a little and gave a good show. Politics sucked, but it would look good for the clients. He waved to the crowd and left the arena with Gaara over his shoulders to hand him over to Umbu. He wouldn't take any risk. But he was glad that his orders had been changed the last moment. Perhaps he could help Gaara to get over his craziness now that the demon was silenced. In Suna, in a room where 2 old people were fishing, one of them sneezed. "Did you catch a cold, sister?" the old man asked. "Sister?" he asked. "Have you died?" "Ha, ha, gotcha. I just pretended to have died," she laughed insanely. "Sometimes I wonder if there were side effects of the seal," the old man mumbled. Orochimaru was livid but had to keep up a calm appearance. His plans were endangered because one brat, a Namikaze again, ruined a key part of them. First Minato was chosen for Yondaime Hokage, then Naruto took out his trump card in the attack. But at least he could start the invasion off. Perhaps the brat was too tired to really fight now. That would help, and Sasuke also had had 2 tiring fights. He should be easier to capture now. Jiraiya was immensely proud of his godson. He had shown everybody his abilities. He would be promoted for sure. Now he had to find the traitor and stop his plans. Sadly, Orochimaru was really good at suppressing his chakra signature. The only way he would be able to find him between all those people in the arena would be Sage Mode, and he only used that as a last resort. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.